Hi, welcome to SBR Forum Videos. I'm Peter Loshak, and we are kicking off our coverage of college football 2014 with Steve from collegefootballwinning.com. It is May, the middle of May right now, but that's all Steve does all year long, so he is very well prepared to talk about anything and everything related to college football. Steve from collegefootballwinning.com, thanks for being back with us.
Thank you for having me back, Peter.
All right, before we get into the first team we're going to discuss, of all the team previews, we're going to do a lot of team previews with you in the offseason. The first team is going to be LSU. Always a fun team to talk about. Before we get into that, give a quick plug for collegefootballwinning.com. Tell everyone how well you did this past season.
Thank you, Peter. This past season, we were 66.18% against the spread for our formula picks, and we're a company founded on making picks algorithmically, and we call those our formula picks. Our lifetime for that formula is 63.04% against the spread. I've been telling you that going into week 13 of this past year, we were 72% against the spread with our formula, and we didn't change our power ratings on any teams at all. And we've never done that before. We normally change them sometimes a couple of times within the season. We didn't touch a thing this past year because, as I said, we were winning at such a high rate, our best season ever, that we just told each other, don't touch a thing. So 72%. Unfortunately, the formula started to regress after or going into week 13 from then on. So we finished at 66.18% against the spread. But even though that's a fantastic winning rate, we think we can do even better than that. We're not going to make that same mistake of not adjusting our power ratings, no matter how successful we are. All we do is college football betting analysis all year round, and I think we're the only service that offers a 100% money-back guarantee on the entire season. If people want to join us, and we hope they do, now's the time to do it. Stay with us the entire season. Put in a coupon code SBR10, that's SBR10, and you'll get 10% off of any membership that we're currently offering.
All right, LSU is the first team we're going to discuss, and LSU, of course, coming off an interesting year. They were not a very good bet against the spread overall, and LSU is just the kind of team that you assume is going to be overvalued, especially in spots. I kind of like to look to bet against them when they're a big favorite, especially when they're a big favorite at home. But last year, their defense was obviously in a down year. Their offense was a lot better than normal, and as a result, their games were a lot higher scoring than normal. They did trend over, and that was something that a lot of people caught on and made some money with. What are you forecasting for LSU for the upcoming year?
Okay, well, we're really looking at, since this is a betting preview, we're looking at two things. We're looking at futures, and we're looking at their against the spread considerations going into the season. Now, you already said we're filming this mid-May, so we don't even get season win totals yet. So we're just looking at national championship futures for the most part. So let's get that out of the way, because you're going to see that we're not going to provide a lot of fantastic insight for the national championship. 2015, the college football national championship for 2015, which is this next season, 2014-2015. It's going to be determined, as you know, by playing off the 4 best teams chosen by 13 people. That is the most subjective method of determining the 4 best teams since well before the BCS era. So that said, we have no data coming from this selection committee. So we have no idea how to assess their subjectivity. So we are immediately looking at all national championship futures betting with extreme caution. So let's look at LSU. They are playing in the SEC. That always helps in the court of public perception, but they tend to win. They often have won with defense, and that does not necessarily garner the same kind of style points that have a psychological impact on people, like when an Oregon or a Baylor just runs up the score and blows out teams by 60 points. The mantra of this college football playoff selection committee has been transparency. But the nuances of the process, they're not even clear to the members of the selection committee yet. So they're learning as they go. If they happen to use the NCAA's method of assessing strength of schedule, then LSU's schedule, according to the NCAA, going into the season, ranks 57th. Again, not impressive. You're not going to impress, the guy on the street or 13 subjects who are making this decision, with your out-of-conference foes being New Mexico State, Sam Houston State, Louisiana Monroe. They do play Wisconsin to start with, but that's it. 3 out of the 4 people can consider sort of throwaway non-conference games. So since the process is so new and so subjective, and LSU's national championship odds, if you look at Pinnacle, they're the 8th shortest odds. If you look at Bovada, they're the 7th shortest odds. There's no data from the selection committee. It's their first year. We recommend the most conservative approach to all national championship futures betting. Consequently, our money will not be on LSU to win a national championship. But looking beyond that, looking to how we approach LSU against the spread, or considering their possibilities against the spread this season. LSU in 2013, 10-3 straight up. They were 5-7-1 against the spread, 3-4 against the spread at home, and 2-3-1 against the spread in away games. It's not very good. Les Miles, as long as he's been at LSU, he enters his 10th year coaching there. He's been an unprofitable 47.83% against the spread. Now listen to this. Death Valley, everyone says, oh, Death Valley. He himself said it's where teams' dreams come to die. So opposing teams' dreams come to die. We say it's more like where your LSU money comes to die. They're just 42.42% against the spread at home in Death Valley since Les Miles has been there. So popular college football strengths often are sports betting traps, and they can go back to that article you and I just discussed in another video, Common Mistakes Made by College Football Bettors. LSU, on the other hand, under Les Miles, is 55% against the spread when they're not in Death Valley, so anywhere but home. Versus SEC opponents, Les Miles and LSU, they're just 42.47% against the spread overall. They're even worse. I mean, this is a terrible 32.43% against the spread at home versus the SEC. Versus non-conference opponents, they are an impressive 57.14% against the spread. But here's a warning. Out-of-conference opponents in Death Valley, overall, 55.56% against the spread with Les Miles. It sounds good. But since September of 2008, they're just 33.33% against the spread in out-of-conference games at home. So be warned. LSU bettors have lost 55.51% of their games against the spread since Les Miles and LSU last won a national championship in 2007. So not looking good. They're definitely a public team. Players lost. Okay, so we talked about returning starters, players lost. They lost to the NFL draft. They had 9 players drafted recently, in the last week, in the NFL. That's the most of any school, and 7 of those 9 players were on offense. So what does that tell you? Normally, the public bettor goes, oh, the offense is gutted. LSU's going to have a down year. But that fact, in the minds of the common sports bettor, should be considered a positive as a sports betting element because it lowers expectations. Besides, LSU, under Les Miles, they don't need a great offense to be great themselves. Their best against the spread season in the past decade at LSU was 2011 when they last played for a national championship. LSU beat the spread at a rate of 71.43% in 2011, while their total offense ranked just 82nd versus the FBS. So no one should be panicking as a bettor that they lost all these great offensive players. Now, let's say that they have a freshman starting quarterback. LSU lost Zach Mettenberger to the draft, and he was the 4th best FBS quarterback by quarterback rating in 2013. There's a freshman who we like better than the incumbent Anthony Jennings as a sophomore. Freshman Brendan Harris, he could be a phenom. He could start at quarterback, and if he does, LSU bettors should be even happier instead of worrying about a freshman starting quarterback. Freshman players have with them they're unknown quantities, so there are little to no expectations, especially for freshman quarterbacks. So consider the against the spread results for the past 6 years of teams that had freshman All-American quarterbacks 6 years in a row. They beat the spread the last 6 years at a rate of 66.67%, and no team of the ones that we're just discussing, the ones led by freshman All-American quarterbacks, no team had a losing against the spread season. So that could be really good news for LSU. Now, so what's desirable? We just talked about this in a previous video. ideal conditions that you're looking at in the offseason for a college football team to have a profitable against the spread season. You want that team to be unranked in the preseason polls. They're not out yet, but LSU is going to be ranked. So that's bad. That's bad for their against the spread prospects. You want that team to have been unprofitable the prior year against the spread. Well, that's good because LSU was 5-7-1, winning at just 41.67%. So that's good for LSU. You want them to have an increase in their straight-up wins from the prior season. LSU had 10 straight-up wins in 2013, so we're looking for at least 11 wins. They should win all 4 of their out-of-conference games, but they have to go to Auburn. They have to play at the Swamp. They have to go to Kyle Field, face Texas A&M, and that's not even mentioning what they have at home, the likes of Mississippi State, senior-laden Mississippi State experienced team, Ole Miss, Alabama, all coming into Death Valley. So for them to get to that 11 straight-up win mark is definitely questionable here. Now, some little tidbits, some little against the spread facts about LSU. When LSU is favored by 2 to 3 touchdowns, since Les Miles has been there, the last 9 seasons, they are just 28.57% against the spread. Horrible. So a great bet against there. They're just 1-6 against the spread when they're favored by less than a touchdown at home. But they are 9-4-1. That's winning at a rate of 69.23% when they're favored by that same less than a touchdown in away games. When their defense has allowed greater than 275 passing yards, they are just 25% against the spread the last 9 years. So those are some things to look out for. In sum, LSU is a popular public team, but they are going to be without a whole bunch of offensive players, stars from last year. That actually bodes pretty well, could bode well for LSU. But public teams, generally not a good bet, not looking too good. However, that can change completely if they start a freshman quarterback and he has a breakout season. So if that is the case, look to jump on LSU early before the word gets out and everyone starts adjusting their power ratings.
Okay, thanks so much, Steve from collegefootballwinning.com. Very thorough analysis of LSU, and I look forward to doing a lot more team previews with you all off season long.